Okay, so I found a screw in one of the boards over here, and one of these nice oak boards. And I want to be really careful not to ruin the blades, which are kind of expensive, on my brand new planer joiner. So I'm going to take this little block, this little offcut of oak, and some super awesome disc-shaped neodymium magnets, and I'm just going to glue the magnets on here. I'm going to make a little groove first that's just like, you know, the thickness of the magnets, and then glue them on there, and I'll have, you know, a little thing that I can just like run over the board, and if it catches on something, I will know that there is a nail there, because I really don't want to miss any of them. These, you know, these are all rough hewn boards, and sometimes the nails are kind of hard to catch. Sometimes they're dug into the wood, and you really got to be careful. So that's my thing for today. Let's see how this works out. Now I can only glue 3 at a time, because if I put 2 more in the gaps between them, the magnets are so strong they'll just snap together, and there's no practical way to hold them in place and get that on there. And I don't mind, you know, I can wait. Hopefully the super glue, I mean, I'm confident that the super glue is going to hold to the wood just fine. The magnets are super smooth. I'm thinking maybe I should have scuffed up the backside of the magnet with a file before I glued it on there, but it's Gorilla Glue. I mean, it's really good glue. Unfortunately, it dries really slowly, so I probably won't even be able to use this today, or at least for a couple hours. This stuff is supposed to set for 24 hours, but once it does, I mean, I've had really good results with it so far, although admittedly, I haven't been using it in structurally challenging situations. I've just been using it to glue little 3D printed modeling pieces together. But it's almost 8 o'clock, so now it's time to go to Epicenter for my daily shopping run. Okay, so we had some issues with the dust collection. I got tired of having to switch the hose back and forth between all of the different machines, between the 2 machines, because I go back and forth between the planer joiner and the table saw pretty often. So I made my trip to Epicenter, and I got myself some tubing, a nice little T-joint there, and I'm just using duct tape, because duct tape's well, it's actually not duct tape. What's it called? This is carbon tape. 100 griven, so about $4 for a roll of it, and it's pretty good. It's not you know, duct tape, but it's pretty good. And I got a vacuum hose. Just this is just for some kind of German-made shop vac, but they sold the hoses separately. It had this little like clicky connection on the end, and I have to find a workaround for that because it won't fit into the other pieces for the dust collection. I was just able to cut it off of the other end, and I got it hooked up to the dust collector. And the next thing I need to do is make a way to shut the end of the hose for when that piece isn't being used. And so now, instead of having to move the hoses like from here to here, this big hose that's not super flexible. I mean, it's kind of flexible, but not really. And I'm afraid that if I keep moving it around, it's gonna not be good for the hose. And so now I have the T-splitter. I've got one hose, the vacuum hose that I can hook up to the table saw. And it's also kind of cool because the vacuum hose is also just a, now it's just a shop vac. And then I've got this big one that hooks up to the planer joiner. And I'm just gonna take, I think I'm just gonna make a little like tab of duct tape that I will just tape onto the end of it, and then it'll like come down, I can unhook it from here, and then it'll just close off the end of the hose, and it'll be held there by suction. And then, all the suction will come through this hose, and then I'll make another one on the end of that. So when I close that hose off, all the suction will come through that hose. And yeah. So, making progress. Everything's coming together. This is my very temporary feed table. I took one of the world's crappiest sawhorses and attached a piece of leftover MDF to the top of it, and it's working okay as a feed table. Better than not having a feed table. So I really need to figure out what I'm going to do with this, because this thing is just not designed for boards that are longer than about 1.5 meters. So longer than about 5 feet, and there's some trouble feeding the boards through. But right now I'm just going to finish getting this dust collection set up. Now, they do make, I could just go print a cap for this. I just realized, hey, you know what? I have a 3D printer. I could just go print a cap for this. So this is gonna be my test. In the meantime, it's really janky. But let's see what happens when I turn it on. And I should get suction out of this end with this end covered, and then I can vacuum up all this sawdust. As I suspected, it might happen, lost a lot of suction through that 3.5 meter hose. So, I could shorten the hose and that would help correct the problem. Honestly, I don't even need to cover up that end of the hose in order to get plenty of suction through the larger hose. So that's going to be a little bit of a difficulty. But I guess I can either shorten that hose, which, you know, easy enough. How long do I need it to be 3.5 meters long? I don't think so. And I can print parts to make it so that I could print out something to make it so that I could like cut it into 2 hoses and then easily reconnect them together. But I think what I'm going to do now is just, well, once I go back inside, I'll print up a better end cap for that side, and go from there. Well, so there's my dust collection system. Let's check in on our nail detector. All right, these seem to be on there pretty well. Let's see how these seem to be attached fairly well. They've been drying for about an hour. Let's see, well, if I just take it over here to this. Oh, that's aluminum. It won't stick. Right. Let's see what it does when I stick it to the wall. Yeah. It's not super strong. The magnets are just barely not coming into contact, so maybe I cut it just a little bit too deep because the magnets aren't quite coming into contact with the surface. And they, you know, magnetic field drops off. Is it the cube or the square of distance? I think it's the cube. But I can still feel I can definitely feel resistance when there's metal underneath it, and that'll help me check for nails, which is what it's good for. All right, well, be good to each other and do something creative today.